So again, my name is Rob. I organize Idea to IPO. We've been doing events in Silicon Valley for many, many years. We hold events multiple times a week from San Jose to San Francisco. We always have a busy, busy calendar of events. I want to highlight 2 events that are coming up. July 2nd, in this room, decision making for entrepreneurs. Who needs help with decision making? Right. So make a decision. It's in this room this coming Tuesday. July 11th, how to successfully pitch to investors and get funded, featuring angel investor Gary Jinks. He's sitting there in the back row. So you get to see him for 2 hours on July 11th in this room. So check out the details for those events and all of our events on our website, ideatoipo.com. We launched on February 1st, 2010. At that time, we had no members and no events on our calendar. At this stage, we have over 60,000 members among all our meetup groups in the Bay Area. We've completed over 2,100 events. We're the most active, most prolific startup event organization in Silicon Valley, bar none. Wow. That's the most authentic wow I've heard in a long time. Thank you, Ollie. Our mission is to promote entrepreneurship, support entrepreneurs, build community, and provide value in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. To that end, we provide content that is practical, actionable, and relevant, stuff that you can actually use to succeed as entrepreneurs. And we believe in building community, because Silicon Valley is an aspirational ecosystem. It attracts people from all over the world who come here to do great things. Who here is not originally from Silicon Valley or the Bay Area? Wow, who here was born and raised in the Bay Area? One native. Let's hear it for the native. Oh, 2 natives. Well, welcome, you guys. Whether you were born and raised here or just arrived last night, it's important for us to provide multiple channels for you to meet people, build relationships, and grow your network. So in addition to our content-oriented events throughout the week, we also have some fun events. In fact, tomorrow, we have a social/movie night here at SVI Hub, and we're showing Avengers Infinity War. So you're all invited. It's free. There'll be lots of food, and it'll be a fun time. Who has seen the movie Avengers Infinity War? Really? What happens in that movie? That's okay. Don't tell us. That's okay. So anyway, come here tomorrow. 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. First hour's networking. Movie starts at 8. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. You're invited. Thank you. With regard to value, it is important that we provide value at each and every one of our events. Not just value for your money, which is important, because we know many entrepreneurs are struggling financially. So we make sure our events are affordable. And if you cannot afford the cover charge for whatever reason, come talk to me and we can work something out. And at each and every one of our events, we make sure that we provide a delicious buffet meal. Is that a delicious buffet meal? Yeah. All right. Thank you to all 5 of you that liked it. Yeah. Well, I prepared them myself, just for tonight. Most importantly, though, at each and every one of our events, we want to make sure that we provide value for your time, which is your most valuable resource. I have to ask, is anyone here getting any younger? Besides our speaker? So when you invest your valuable time to come to our events, we want to make sure that you maximize your ROI. We have many, many partners that help us do what we do. Law firms, venture capital firms, angel investor groups, incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, colleges, universities, lots of other players in the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. Tonight, we're grateful to SVI Hub for hosting us at this beautiful venue. Is this a beautiful venue? Yep. Yes, it's a beautiful venue, and they have awesome plants here, too. So let's give it up for SVI Hub and Barbara.
So I wanted to thank you all for coming for this exciting event. I wanted to thank Rob for organizing it. And as he said, we are new co-working space in Sunnyvale. We just recently started. Also, we're gonna start in September a few programs for the startups. So feel free if you have any questions to ask me or my colleague Serdar. And we have a special deal for the co-working space for all our membership. We have a first month for free. So feel free to ask some questions if we'll have some. And enjoy the event.
Right. Who likes free stuff? All right, well, you get 1 month here for free. Go for it. A few of our other partners are here tonight. I would also like to have them come up and say a few words. Let's hear it for Zeki and Kratos Technology. Applause.
Thank you, Rob. So Rob is probably one of the wealthiest people I've ever known in my life because he gives without asking back. Right? That's what it is, right? I mean, that's the spirit of Silicon Valley that he's talking about, and his events are really great because the quality, people, the network that I make in his events are great. So we provided the tacos tonight, and I've talked to many of you one-on-one. Thanks to SVI Hub for hosting this event. Thanks to Rob organizing it. And if you have any questions about who I am or what I do, we've talked individually anyway. But yeah, feel free to contact me.
What is Kratos Technology?
My company does workflow analytics for the enterprise. We have a platform that not only makes ingestion of data very easy, but also provides solutions for consumption of that data as well. 90% of the data collected since the beginning of the internet has been collected within the last 2 years. So a lot of data coming through, but we just don't know how to consume it yet. So we're basically providing solutions for the enterprise to consume it intelligently. Thank you.
For a second there, I thought you were talking about a restaurant. You're talking about consuming, ingestion.
Can be applied to it.
All right. All right, next up, we have Ali and Planner.ai. Applause.
Thank you. We help teachers and coaches empower more students. If you're a teacher or a coach, you have a limited number of hours during the day to communicate with your students, with your clients. It's not a scalable business. We want to change that. We want to help you as a private coach, as a teacher, to scale your personalized content to many more students. And if you're a student in remote places across the planet, now you will have the opportunity to have access to personalized, interactive content, premium content delivered by best teachers across the planet. Thank you so much.
Local mission is to support entrepreneurs here in Silicon Valley. Our greater mission is a global mission to democratize entrepreneurship innovation all around the world. To that end, we maintain a robust YouTube channel, youtube.com/idea to IPO. Go check it out. We have tons of videos there. We've documented and archived many of our events. And this rich, valuable content is available on demand, anytime, anywhere. Totally free of charge, whether you're in Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, San Francisco, New York, Maui, Moscow, or Timbuktu. Our partner in this endeavor is Tim Jeggers of Jeggers Films, perhaps the top professional videographer in Silicon Valley, bar none. Let's hear it for Tim.
Thank you, everybody. So I'm Tim. I've been the video partner with Idea to IPO for many years now. I also do promotional stuff, real estate. I dabble with a lot of photography as well. Shoot weddings on the weekend, so I'm pretty busy, but I've always got time to talk to anybody who's got questions about what I do or how it could benefit you in your business. And I will be around until a little bit after the end of the event. So feel free to come up and pick my brain if you got anything on your mind relative to multimedia production. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give it back to Rob. Thank you for having us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's the schedule for the rest of the evening. Our featured speaker will present his awesome slide deck. Audience members, hold your questions until 8 p.m. At that point, we'll open it up to questions from the audience. I would like to have you use the microphone to record so we can make sure that we have a quality learning product that we can all use over and over again. At 8:30 p.m., we'll end the formal program. Andre has some books available for purchase, and you can also have them signed by him. We're going to do that outside at the check-in desk, roughly, again, 8:30 p.m. If at any time during the formal program you need to grab some more food, stretch your legs, use the restrooms, it's okay. Just get up and go for it. It's a very informal atmosphere we have here. So without further ado, I want to introduce our featured speaker tonight. He is an entrepreneur, an angel investor, a thought leader, a published author, and he is passionate about helping entrepreneurs succeed. So let's give it up for Andre Gueziec.
Well, I'm very grateful to be here tonight. Only changed what you said. I don't have a slide deck. I have a slide. I hope you like that slide, but that's my slide. Anyways, as I said, so some of the stuff I will talk about is in my book and some isn't. It's kind of a loose hodgepodge of stuff that I've kind of learned along the way, or not. And no, it's not true. I have a slide deck. So, first slide. There we go. Some tips about how we can be successful. I know it's not easy, I'd say, but first of all, I wanted you to know a little bit about myself. I used to be in that second part of my life, I don't know, a researcher. I have a PhD in computer science, and I did file a whole number of patents. Unfortunately, none I've actually sold or assigned all of them today. I don't have a single one remaining. But I think if you Google me, I have a lot. I think 50 or something. But I don't count because they multiply themselves. You know, that's true if you guys are into patents because continuations are filed and what. So whatnot, I used to do 3D graphics, computational geometry. It's fun. That's, to simplify things, kind of what brought me to this country. Not exactly. Keep it this way. More on my book. And this is to do progressive simplification of geometry. Anyways, and let's go back to this notion of, this is exactly what my notes are, so put it right here. So basically, I want to try to show you there's kind of an alternate path to doing a tech business, especially if you're kind of in high tech and if you have a background like I had, but there's other options too. There's an alternate path. And basically, I started my business in the end of 2001. So that's a while back now. And I said 15 years ago, I'm a little generous there. It's a little more than 15. But what I noticed at the time is that the newscasts were not able to display any traffic data, the traffic newscasts. And I had plenty of time to actually watch TV because I just lost my job after September 11. And I tell about this in the book. And it was actually pretty challenging, but I was kind of, hammering through. And interestingly, I was watching this telecast, doing my statistics. I was trying to determine how much time the TV stations were spending on showing traffic versus weather. And actually, when I got some funding for my business, these kind of notes I took watching TV was the best part of it, got me funded. So you can make money watching TV, but you have to do it the right way. Anyway, so here comes kind of the idea I had, which was coming through from my background from geometry and data processing, is the vision of a product that would show times animated maps where incidents are located, all of the stuff that you can see really a lot today on TV. And my company was, essentially one of the companies pioneering that. And we ended up selling the product to 80 TV stations. And this is kind of why, essentially, Rob invited me to talk tonight about that adventure. And so I guess it's kind of a pretty obvious thing, but I think when you want to start as an entrepreneur, it's really good to have something that's memorable and unique. And in my situation, that's what is these animated maps of traffic that were really new, but it was right what I had learned to do at IBM and another company here. I was doing visual simulations, and I was doing basically animated landscapes for flight simulation. And I thought, oh, would it be cool if we did that to simplify things again? But let's bring me to, I promised I would talk a little bit about how to get money. So if you really do need any, I don't know. And I actually didn't raise a whole lot of money for my business, but what I did was getting a grant. Yeah, I actually just edited that slide before the talk, I know, admit it. And I've added a blue arrow there. But so this is coming from Columbia University, and the numbers may have changed a bit. I think it's a couple of years old. But that slide shows you basically some distribution of capital depending on what amounts of money you want. So you may be, who is in the room is familiar with this? Nobody, that's good. Who is familiar with this distribution of capital sources? Or should I tell about this in more detail? I will then. So, but basically, you know, at the higher income, if you need some millions and stuff like that, or if you need to go public, usually you have few people to talk to. Only basically you can usually ask your mom and dad or something like that, or your friends and family. But the bumps are where the interesting thing is. So basically, the biggest issue, I'm gonna just do this once, is this here. It's that gap of funding before you get to venture capital, right? And a big thing is that this bump here, which includes angels, like I do a little bit of angel investing myself. But if what you're looking is anywhere from 100K to maybe up to $1 million, you probably don't want to talk to VCs. They might not be interested in talking to you anyways. And there may be more sources than you can think if you're careful looking at it. And I really suggest you look into grants. You know, being a PhD and having, it's not like I was working for IBM Corporation and I was writing a lot of grants for them. These guys apply for a lot of grants. And I discovered there was the Small Business Innovation and Research Program, which you may have heard of, not the SBIR, which is basically money set aside just for small businesses. And so for me, there was kind of my gold mine. I'm not saying it's an easy process. If you look at the funding statistics, last time I had looked, they take, you know, they fund 1 in 10 applications. Now you have to see also whether all the 10 applications are equally, you know, meritful or whatnot. Certainly it's a competitive process, but it's doable. It's kind of what I'm saying. So yes, okay, for that one exception. Okay, and you're gonna keep it, are you gonna keep it this, promise to keep your, yeah, because the whole question is, this is, you know, so I was doing this research earlier on the link between suffering and being successful. There seems to be like a connection. The best example I could find is DJ Khaled. He's actually owns a record label now. He's a pretty wealthy individual, and you see him suffering there. So, you know, bear witness to this. You got to suffer to be successful. Another image I want to give, and that gives me to this other topic, is to notice kind of when to give up. But I think there's really a fine line between persisting and knowing when to stop, you know. Even like the VCs call it, you know, failing quickly. There's a lot of wisdom to this. I mean, if something is not your thing, you know, why do you want to spend 20 years doing it? And the tragedy is, I think a lot of humanity does that, you know, do things for 20 years, that's not their thing. So anyways, it's the hardest thing, because if you don't persist, things are not gonna, you know, work out for you. You have to persist, but to when, I guess that's the key, and that's probably the secret. So you want to keep keep kind of working, but keep kind of looking around for signs too, And speaking of which, at some point you're going to probably experience traction. I guess when it happens, you'll know it. But it may take a while. And in our case, I'll talk about it, it took a very long time. I mean, from the time I started to the real serious customer putting us into real business, it was probably 4 years. So, but until you experience this traction, essentially, you and your funding team are the only ones going to really, and the people you pay anyway. So if you have the money to pay them, you're the only believers, right? Nobody else will believe in it. Speaking of which, so we finally got our product ready in the product I wanted to do for television. We got it ready in 2005, and I started in 2001, so about 4 years after I got a little bit of funding from the grant. And that show was great because we kind of got lucky, and that's true. Sometimes breakthrough do occur, and at that time, trade shows were even better than today. So for the television industry, everybody would go to the NAB show in Vegas, and in my company, we only had the budget for like a tiny booth, but I bought the biggest display I could afford. And they would rent displays there, but I figured I'd be better off to buying the best I could at Costco, driving there, maybe possibly returning the display to Costco after, than renting one of the crap there. So we had the best display ever, and we had this tiny booth close to the bathroom, and magic happened. So we got like a reporter giving us one of the top innovation awards that year. That was great. But interestingly, we got the top innovation award, but still 0 customer for a few months following this. And this is where that's another thing. But and I'm wondering if I really truly have this quality. But for a while, I thought I did. The main thing is you have to believe in it. You have to believe that you're cool when the situation isn't. But that's a key quality. And back, why is everybody freaking out? Yeah, don't know. Anyways, and that's very different from performance anxiety and things like on the spur of the moment where you're going to talk and you're nervous. It's more like not really knowing if the business is going to be in business next month, but still being able to sleep, and taking it one day after the next. And today is terrible. Okay, let's see. Tomorrow is a new day. It's terrible again. Okay, let's see next day. But this sort of thing, this sort of thing. So breakthroughs finally occur, and it took actually 4 months after that show to have the first customer give us a trial. So they let us actually test our software on the screen. Our situation was, there's some good stuff and some bad stuff. The good stuff is it's a product that the TV stations would be willing to pay good money, decent money for, because it was their product, what they put on the air. That's the good side. The bad side is we were like a tiny startup with 3 people, unfortunately no big VC people behind them, and so they didn't want to take the risk of putting something that wasn't proven on the screen, and it would be a flop, and then the competitors would laugh at them and make kind of ads making fun of them and all kinds of bad stuff. So, and I was aware of that, being into this dream for like several years. I had strategized this thing like crazy. I had hired consultants, from the industry just to get their opinion and paying them good money. Oops, shouldn't have touched that, huh? But it's okay. But so first, I had figured out I wouldn't be able to start my product in the biggest markets like LA or Chicago or New York. There's no way they would take a chance, because these stations at the time were billing $400 million a year, and there's no way they would take a chance with a brand new product. But you could try it in Sacramento, market number 20. On top of it, It's actually happens to be the capital of some state. So you have some pretty important people watching TV there. So that was my strategy for like 6 months to break in. And finally, they let me do a test run. And the other thing that happened is they were still not ready to buy, but the ABC people in New York, they keep watching like the 10, at the time they owned 10 different stations. They kept watching the feed of the 10 people every so and then, and I saw this stuff, what is that stuff? And I decided to run a news story on my stuff. And so when it went kind of nationwide, then the general manager of News 10 gave me a call and said, we really got to sit and do a deal. So that was August then. Took a while. They started the test in June, it was August. Anyways, so this is just to make breakthroughs to occur, but you have to kind of work on them. You have to work on them. And another breakthrough is basically, if my memory is correct, already at that time, 2005, the Blackberries were like selling like hotcakes. Somebody remember the Blackberry Curve? I think I still kept mine. Yeah, that was really hot. I think that's kind of an old iPhone, but we were able to ride that wave, you know, because I had at that time good contracts from the stations. I was able to hire some really good engineers, not quite as expensive as today, you know. And we were some of the first people with this type of maps, so we got quite popular. And we leveraged it with our television stations customers. I said, after a while, we had about 80 stations that we sold this product to. And we sold it as a bundle. So we also sold that product or sometimes gave it away. It depended if we could get our brand. You see, we have our Beat the Traffic brand on it or not. And they was kind of working in all kind of directions. So on TV, they were showing that. So people were downloading the app. Then they were seeing our brand. And one thing led to another, but pretty quickly, we had a lot of downloads. So we had 4 million downloads. And these numbers are actually went quite a bit bigger than that, but we put it in our ads. And 500,000 actually daily users who are quite popular then. And this is kind of when I had the kind of the call to sell the company. But I want to take like a little side dish because I mentioned I would talk about company culture. And it didn't occur to me that it was so important until I had the opportunity to listen to a presentation by the former CEO of Porsche AG in Germany. I forgot his name now, but he was kind of nice. And that guy, he took over at the worst time in their history. They had just lost a huge customer, I don't know if it's Bosch or something, and they were not doing too well. And he took over that company and basically resurrected the competitive situation, and they were able to win at Le Mans, for instance, and then other competition, Formula One, in many places. And he attributed it a lot to the culture he created, and that's very interesting. And in his book, he said that essentially, and I know a lot of companies still work by that book today, and it amazes me because that's not my experience, and I think it's bad. But the worst thing he said is that if you have like the culture is like a slide deck of 150 slides, or like 60 bullet items of the stuff that a good company man does. And he says that's the worst possible thing. And it's funny because when he said this and I heard his talk, this is exactly the same thing that happened to me. In my company, actually, when I thought about it, we only had kind of 2 rules, and there were like 2 negatives. They were, you shall not do this, and you shall not do that. And there was the whole culture, you know, pretty bare bones. And basically, the company I joined, Pelmorex, because they bought my company. They had they brought me for like a week there in Toronto, and they sent me back with a blue booklet, and it had like about 60 rules in English on the side one and the same in French on the side B. And I was supposed to instigate to my team all these new rules. That was my job, and I found it to be so hard. And at that time, you know, I see the Porsche person that tells me this was total bullshit. And because, you know, why do you want to restrict people's behaviors and dreams to like 60 things that are good, you know? Doesn't make any sense. And he said that it's even kind of a religious thing. If you look at the Bible, and there's only 10 commandments, there's 10 stuff you're not supposed to do, right? You're not supposed to steal, kill, you know, or whatever. Everything else you can do. This is why life is good, you know? So anyways, that's kind of my 2 cents. So I kept the 10 commandments, and I did kind of two rules. And basically, there was all about customers because I'm focusing on money. So I said this is the 2 things that were actually written in on the company wall. So there was it took a while, but basically, you couldn't complain about customers in my business. The reason is, if they are difficult, they are still good because they make your product better. And if they are not difficult, well, they are good because they make your profit good. That's the thing, anyways. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how you're gonna sell your business. And you know, the first thing I'm gonna say, let me say, I'm gonna let you read that. I'll let you read that first. But I think you hear all these stories, and it's easy to be to see billion-dollar signs everywhere on the thing. More and more today, because I keep hearing more and more that we're in a winner-take-all world, you know. And maybe we are, and that's actually not a good thing, you know. There's nothing good about winner-takes-all. And it probably was already the case when I started my business too. But the reality, I mean, there's an alternate reality to this too. But at some point, I came across this very interesting article about acquisitions. Okay, granted, it's 4 years old, but I can tell you that that reality is still there. I mean, if you looked at Yahoo's complete list of acquisitions, right? They did 52 deals in a certain time period, and they did this humongous deal for Tumblr for clearly $1 billion. Actually, there was something going on. I don't know if it could have been 1999 or something like that. The number is pretty funny, isn't it? Must have spent like the whole weekend on to think, who's going to pay the extra 10 million, you know? It's not going to be from my pocket. These guys want $1 billion. I'm not going to give the extra 10 million. So who gave the extra 10 million? That's what I want to know. But my point that's more important is if you look at the tail of the deals, 352 million, you have an average of actually 7 million per acquisition. Right. And so when I show these slides to entrepreneurs and they complain that I don't want to invest in their business that they started like last week, and the pre-money money is 10 million, I say, you know, well, this is what Yahoo paid for your business. So if I invest right now, I'm going to lose, assuming you can sell it, I'm going to lose 30%, you know, out of each of my dollars. I'm kind of being a little sarcastic, you know, for no good reason, but these numbers are very real. So, and entrepreneurs have got to be conscious of that. Outside of the enormous deals, the majority of them, you know, are a few $1 million, which is not so bad, you know. So can you make more money out of real estate? Maybe, I don't know, don't ask me. No, and that's all good and thing, but you have also to realize that these numbers are skewed. So actually the median or the mode are probably lower than the mean number that you've seen, okay? Another thing. But you know, what I was gonna say about selling is that, and it was the case for my business, I'm putting this slide because who was it that I was in a lawsuit at some point, and I was accused to try to sell my business to go back to Paris. So I figured I'd do it. I'll put the slide right there. But I don't think you can really time an exit, you know. But you can surely prepare your business, and that means the books, all the operations, the source code, you know, the people. There's all kinds of things you can do so that the business is in a good condition. Certainly, if you can, the profitability. We go back, I mean, of course, I mean, we hear about all these companies losing money. I'm not going to name the big names, and you know, going public and stuff like that. Great, but most businesses are sold on a EBITDA basis, you know. And certainly the fact that my company was profitable was a good thing for these purchases. Other people may have seen differently, but these guys were kind of on the dollar, and so it doesn't hurt to make, you know, a profit here and there. Anyways, and so I kept this slide because gives you an idea when somebody mentioned waste, but right about the time that you know, I sold my company, it's called Beat the Traffic, and basically it was owned by Pelmoret Canada. But if you search traffic like on an iPhone, the top two results were us and Waze. And actually, for a while, we were actually bigger than Waze in the USA too. That's kind of the old days. Anyways. But basically, I kind of finished it early. That's kind of what I wanted to say. So you have a bunch of questions, and we can go to the questions. If some resources, if you want to contact me. You know, I don't have a boss right now, so I don't have business cards anymore. And everybody keeps asking for my card. I'll leave this kind of open for a while. So you can find me on LinkedIn. And my book has actually a lot of details. It's got a whole chapter on how to find some money. So what I kind of went very quickly through that side, I go into more details on that whole chapter. And I have kind of a pretty long story on how to sell the business, if you want to hire business brokers or not, and all of these things. But maybe I'll open for questions. It makes sense. Yeah, it's only fair. It's for the recording, yeah.
I just want to share with you that I've just done a trade show for 2 days. I hired a 63-inch TV, and it cost me $1,000 US.
All right, good job.
So you're right.
Are you gonna put it on your wall when you're done?
I thought from flying from Australia, I'm not going to bring a booth. It's the easiest way to do a booth is just fill it up with graphics.
Yeah.
On the screen. $1,000 for 2 days.
Very, very smart.
Very expensive.
Maybe you could have bought it on Costco and then give it to me.
On the footpath.
Oh yeah.
So Andre thinks, is this really working? This is just for the video. Okay.
Yeah, but I can hear you just fine.
All right. So Andre, you were talking about the SBIR loans.
Yeah.
And what I came to find out within the last few years, I was looking into this aspect of fundraising. There are so many companies that I call sharks or frequent flyers in SBIR.
Frequent flyers.
All right, in SBIR grants. I have come across companies who have actually made a business out of this, and they're actually writing grants on behalf of other companies. They employ engineers on staff just to get grants from the government,
right,
and then dish them out, or basically use them in such a way that, you know, after assigning the PI, they basically flow the money in such a way that, you know, it's adhering to the rules. But on the other hand, it's for a first-time entrepreneur, it's not, you know, 1 out of 10 chance. Really, it's 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 1,000 chance, really. So it's not really how should I say, different than the odds of a VC funding. But SBIR is non-dilutive, so that basically that goes a long way.
Very
But
good point, yeah.
yeah, but what are your thoughts about these frequent flyers or professional SBIR appliers?
Well, the latest thing is kind of a news to me. In my time, you had some consultants that would offer some help, or that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, Everybody can start a company and try something. You just need to find customers. I wouldn't I wouldn't do it because I don't think it's going to fly with the it's going to be difficult to fly with the agencies, because they really like to certainly I can speak of the NSF, which is an agency I apply to. I also apply to the NIH. It's a long story, but they develop a very close relationship to you as an entrepreneur. And my program manager, I kept in touch for a long time, And so if you can get somebody to write the grant for you, same thing. I mean, I guess you can get people to write the book for you. It's the same thing. But I think it's a dangerous situation. It's very easy to just kind of lose your money doing that because
So I mean, these
because you can't really tell easily a unique story with a run-of-the-mill guy. They say we're going to do that.
Exactly, but these businesses exist. That's why I did not go and basically apply for SBI.
I see. Really?
I mean, I know at least like 3-4 companies that do it. One of them is located in San Francisco.
So okay, let me go back a little bit, because there may be some value to what these guys do, because that's the thing. And again, I kind of went through the really quick tour here. The whole notion even of applying for this grant was a major project, and it took me a long time. And remember, I had done it before for corporations and for New York University as well. So like many things, there's the meat of the grant, which is you wanted to show your magic, and you'd be surprised. I mean, they ask pretty good people to review these grants. They kept asking me a lot. Just kidding. But and you have the framework. Being government agency, the framework is a lot of work per se. So for that, I'd be willing to outsource that. It's a lot of work. Now it's a question how much your time is valuable. But to tell your unique story, to totally outsource it, I don't know. It's kind of like asking a patent lawyer to write your patent application. Most people do that, but you've got to tell them, what's truly unique about your stuff, But the whole process is tricky. The deadlines are pretty stringent. If you miss them by 10 minutes, you miss them. It's kind of unless they've changed it, well, it's pretty dramatic. And but it's not funny because most people kind of first starting at the last minute and say, okay, today is the application day, I'm going to submit. It's probably too late. If you say I'm going to submit on the application day, you've lost. Because I've done it like 1 year and I missed a whole year because of this. Because then you was, and I had to have this done. Okay, so you scramble. And I had to have this done. Okay, finally it's 15 to 5 p.m. I'm going to submit, and then something happens, your internet goes down and you miss. So it's kind of, you have to do it like the day before or something. Because, it's pretty stringent. It's government stuff, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the terrific content. My question is about culture. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on correlation of why you want to start a business and the evolutionary path of product market fit on culture? So to make it more clear, startups, good startups start with a strong why. They have a good reason why they're doing this.
Yeah.
Especially going through the grind and pressure and crunch of running a startup, especially in the early days. And good ones manage to bring a bunch of pirates together, people who are rebellious and want to change the world. Now, if you give them Bible, 60 bullets, they wouldn't read that. They just want 1 or 2 bullets, right? The highlights of it. Move fast and break things, or things like that. But as you grow, your culture, starts shaping up, and then over the years, it turns into a 60-bullet Bible or even bigger. So, what are your thoughts on the importance of the original why on culture?
Yeah, very good question. My short answer is it's a quote I've seen in that book. The same I got my quote on customers, is that every organization, when it has more than 20 people, it becomes evil. So that's the simple answer. The other one is, we had 20 people when I sold this business. Very profitable, 5 million in sales, but I was so concerned about overspending and stuff. So I think I was a pretty successful CEO, but the kind who kind of counts every penny. So there's several categories of CEOs. So if you're not looking for that, don't hire me, I guess, or find somebody else. So, but I guess you have a point. If you have like a bigger organization, this offer put it at like 20 people. I don't know if it's the magic number, but there's a certain magic number where it's hard to fit everybody in the same room, in the same conference room. So what's the magic number? But if you go above this magic number, I may not be the best person to tell you, and it may be tricky. And I'm saying, sell the business to something else, or start doing music, or. But it's just a different dynamic.
If I may get a quick follow-up, so early days of a startup, first 2 or 3 years, is it okay just to let the strong why function as a compass or the culture of the company, and not worry about the details of it?
And remember, what you call the why is kind of the
why are you doing this business? Because I want to help
the product.
Customers
I see.
Doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah. The answer is probably yes, but I still think that kind of you make certain assumptions there, Ali, is that you do really want to change the world, I only wanted to change 10 minutes of the morning TV programming.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. So my goal was like a little less ambitious, and I believe like that was a constraint, and that wasn't written because I guess that there was no reason to write it. But sometimes the best creations come out of the most constraints. I'm discovering that in music right now. The more constraints you put on the composer, the better they come up with stuff. It's kind of crazy. So that's why my goal wasn't. I wasn't gonna change the world. I only wanted to change a little bit of a tiny bit of something. Start with this, and then see what happens. But yeah. Thanks for the question, though. Okay, you buy a lot of my books. Another question.
Yeah, ask a little bit more about your inventor
Yeah.
background. I understand that you had a pen and simplifying dimensional objects.
Yeah. Well, IBM has it, I think, now. Or maybe has sold it to some guys.
What are the other inventions that you, as we understand, sold? All of them. Can you give me a couple of
sure.
examples?
Thanks for asking about me. I wasn't sure I'm that interesting, but sure. So yeah, as a researcher for IBM, I started actually in medical imaging. There was my thesis in France, and I worked on a very interesting problem that actually is still a problem today. That basically, if you take a CAT scan of a person at a certain time, and you take another CAT scan later, you want to see what changed exactly, to the millimeter. So I worked on methods to register shapes. That's the first thing. And then I got that job as a researcher at IBM, and they were afraid of lawsuits. Then they said they're going to stop all the medical stuff. So actually, they sold all the patents to Intuitive Surgical, which is making a killing now. But that's something. This is why there's good ideas for being your own boss after a while. You realize. But then they offered me, why don't you work on computational geometry? You were working on skulls and brains. You can do like other shapes. So I said, okay. And so I worked on simplifying. Was kind of a hot research topic now. It's very actively used these days, as I understand. What else did I work on? I forgot now. Well, a bunch of them. And then when I worked for this company called Multigen for a while, I worked on a system to, and that relates to what I did for the traffic thing. In flight simulation or so, you always have like a budget of things you can draw, whatever the situation is, because if you put too much stuff, then you won't have this really beautiful frame rate that's so smooth. That's the thing about television, and they lacked a product when it started because they couldn't believe you could have like an animation that was so fluid without having to render it. Yeah, maybe I should have kind of put like 10 more slides on that thing. But there was the key to the innovation there is that the weather companies, they had a traffic product. It was a pretty shitty product because you had to decide, oh, we're talking about this accident, and then you prepare it, and then you hit a render button, and 10 minutes later, you could put it on TV. But then they said, but there's no accident. So this being said, it was a need. So they were selling this product. And the customers were not happy. You know, well, customers not happy, you're still selling them a product. Have you heard this story before? Well, yeah, Salesforce.com, you know, Oracle, IBM, everybody, Google. So as long as there's no competition, it's not a big problem, right? They keep buying something they're not happy with. But when they saw a product that the thing was fluid and you didn't have to render it, you could put it on TV right there, say, wow, you know, I'm going to buy this. But then they waited 6 months to make sure they were not going to lose their job giving me a check. So that was another invention there, except that, you know, it was kind of a different patent. But that notion of the all these computations to maintain your budget, like come up with a system that you could have a certain budget and eliminate stuff. And it's geometry again, you know, stuff like that. And then with beat the traffic, then all kinds of different patterns in the different notion. That some of it was putting the traffic representations in 3D, some other with GPS, and that's another thing. The company was valuable because we had these patents on linking traffic and GPS. So at some point, you know, we actually even had a dispute with Garmin International. It's complicated, but so there's a whole bunch of patents like that, and I guess that's it so far. Hoping I'm going to discover new things now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah.
I want to put you on hot seats.
Okay. Well, I can't see stuff they put in my pocket there.
So, as an entrepreneur, you mentioned you decided not to change the world. You had a very well-defined, well-scoped goal. You wanted to make that happen, right?
Yeah.
As an investor, if you talk to an entrepreneur and they tell you the same thing, what would you say? If someone says, you know what, I don't want to make the investment 10 times bigger.
Well, I mean, if they talk to me, I might be like the best person to talk to, I guess. Except I don't, as I said, I don't do that much, you know, angel investments. Yeah, I think it's a problem. It's due to the way the things have evolved, and to some degree, I think it's a fallacy. And there's all kinds of momentum, so it's not being disproved. But it's the whole notion of a winner takes all thing. And you probably, I don't have to teach you anything. You know the dynamics, you know, of VCs and how they really want to have like one home run that pay for all the other mistakes and errors of being youth. But that's where it comes from. So it's not going to be popular with many investors, but you have to go back to the basics of what it means. You know, what do you want an investor to do? Essentially, you want to get capital from them that you don't have otherwise. Because if you have the capital, why ask them? And you want to provide a return to them. So if you can articulate this, I think you can still do it. And it's interesting, you know, I'm kind of a little bit involved in the scene in France, and they have kind of very different figures right now. It's pretty interesting. I'm sure it's going to align at some point. But
how is it different with France?
Valuations are typically lower. Maybe expectations are generally lower, you know. Because if you think about it, for companies in Europe, if you your dream is to change the world, you're going to have to come here. You're probably going to have to conquer Beijing too. So it's very complicated. But there's businesses that start in Europe and do very well in Europe too, and they think about expanding later. So
that's more realistic, you think?
I think everything is possible. But you and I had this little discussion before, and it may be useful to share it. I mentioned these funds, I think based in San Francisco. I forgot the name right now, but their motto is they want a 3x return after 3 years. Okay, you should look into this. And if your business is capable to do that, you may have more success getting funded by these guys. Yeah, it's kind of, the name escapes me, but maybe if you search that, you'll find them. It's a very interesting model. And so basically the stakes are higher, and you'll notice they want to get the money sooner. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if your capital is basically tied up for 10 years, it's a very long duration. Very long duration. So if you think if you can do it in 3 years, and you look at the portfolio, they have a bunch of companies, and there's companies that can follow this model. So I think everything is possible. And as an entrepreneur, I would definitely, you are in a situation of hyper competitivity. You have a lot of people to compete with. I would definitely look into kind of having your unique niche, your unique vision that's different. And that's kind of one of them. If your funding plan is like that, you're going to have like a smaller niche to apply to. You'll have a much higher sense of success there. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, at all, but that's an option in a world where banks are still kind of not out of the equation. And that's strange because these guys are kind of doing terrible. They are not doing well at all. And traditionally, banks did lend to businesses, and that's the whole question. So now everybody wants to be a startup, and everybody wants to conquer the world, But there's all kinds of businesses that are not conquering the world, or they are, but after 100 years, and that's fine too. And there's all kinds of businesses that grow organically. Who knows? I mean, if I didn't sell ours, I ended up kind of, some way by choice and some way by it just happened, competing with people like Waze and Google and very greedy and big people. And I thought, getting out was maybe smart, but maybe I could have been Waze, or who knows? You can always keep going. You can always keep going. So, but I see the businesses every day. You may even know their names, and they are huge, and they just kind of grow year after year and year after year and year after year. Yes. Does it answer your question? Or?
Yes, thank you.
So who did you sell your business to, and what happened? What did they do with it?
Excellent question. I sold it to Pelmorex, and it's kind of the umbrella of the weather network in Canada. It's a pretty big business, not by Silicon Valley sizes. It's a few $100 million, but and they are the kings of weather in Canada. And so they wanted to go into traffic, and I approached them first. I went to see the big boss there, the chief chairman. I asked him if he would invest in my company. And then he said, maybe I'll buy you out. So I said, well, we'll see. And then it kind of happened. But yeah, that's the story. And what did they do? It's a bit of a tragedy. They kind of managed to destroy the whole thing very quickly. And partly, though I had some good advice at that time, my best friend said, Andre, it's the position they're offering you in this company is not right. You should have a higher position. And I kind of dismissed it, and I actually was paying very expensive advisors who told me that it didn't matter, I should just sell my company and kind of exit. But basically, I was reporting to that guy who was kind of dishonest, actually. He was lying, and he didn't have a vision, and he wanted to do everything different. So, and he made mistake after mistake, and we were only 20 people. So to give you an idea, the first thing he thought is we had to cut, right? You buy a company, you must cut something. And I told him, there's really nothing to cut, honestly. So he still cut, and he got rid of all the marketing. Okay. And they were doing wonderful stuff. I mean, we were buying this ad on NPR, the Click and Clark Brothers. It was expensive, but there was a real ROI behind it. And then he kept doing stuff. And then after a year, he started asking me if I still had the password to something, or I mean, the people were gone. And when the people are gone, they are gone. So it didn't take very long. So they kind of killed the whole thing. Bad management.
Are you okay with that?
No, but at some point there's nothing I can do anymore.
Was it a clean exit?
From what point of view?
That if they destroyed it, didn't affect your pay?
Financially, no. I was protected towards that. Emotionally, no, because it was kind of hard. but I was protected financially, yeah, for what it's worth, yeah. But yeah, and I mean, these things happen, and it was a tall order. Basically, whoever bought us would have had to kind of really fight and try to beat up ways or give them some really serious competition, which was possible. But it was the totally different management, and I was kind of I had my mind on exiting, which was a good thing, because exits that fail at the last minute, that does happen a lot. So I had my mind on exiting and actually taking care of my people. Because I was in a very particular situation since I had started on my own, gotten the ground on my own. The first time I had any collaborators, I was paying them good money, and they had not typically asked. So for the longest time, I didn't have given any equity. So I was kind of into it, and I said, I'm going to do it. But things happen, and I never did it. The other thing is I would have had to change the company. It was LLC, which was actually a bad choice going back. But again, it was a bad choice, tax-wise. But what I did, though, is basically I reserved 15% of the whole proceeds to be distributed among the employees, which I think was fair. This was all good. But interestingly, this was like a major point of contention with the new owners, because all of a sudden they said, well, if these guys had stock, that would be perfectly fine. But that's something that you're creating with your money that you're giving us, and we're actually opposing it. So in the end, it kind of got to this thing. I said, this is not working. What are you guys doing? These guys are going to be pissed, and they don't deserve it, and I don't deserve it. And I said, I'm just kind of making a condition of the deal now. I mean, if you don't want to do that, maybe. So I made this the deal, you see. So that was the whole discussion. So, and that's maybe was the downside, because this being the whole discussion, it got done because I want it done. And obviously, if I wasn't going to make the deal wasn't going to happen. But the whole strategy going forward was left entirely to them. And I underestimated how bad they were going to be, because they were like a big company, thought very slow. Basically the chairman essentially kind of looked like he had a CEO that he hired, but in reality, anyways, he was in control, but a very slow process. So everything was very slow, and they were not really capable to doing dealing with a fast-running 20 people business. So they ruined it. Such is life.
You got the financial exit. So well done.
Yeah, and then I start doing something else and think about something else, and everybody's got their disappointments, so you got to live through it, and move on. And so it is. I'm really glad. I'm really grateful I got to build this, and I'm also very glad I got to exit it, because when you start really playing in the game of the big guys, you start to feel it. It's a little strange. It's a little strange, because I had this one meeting with Google. I still found strange to this day. It was a very long time ago. Very long time ago. I think I mentioned in my book too. I may have changed the name and changed it to Frugal just so they don't give me legal trouble. So if you want to play after big guys, you got to be ready to do that. Huh? Other questions? Yeah. Who was first? I don't know.
Hi. Yes.
We need to have a system, but I'm not forgetting you, Steve.
The system is the mic. I have a question. I have met someone who's got some software talents, working on some startup that's very early stage.
Is he
No.
Andy?
And I see
Because you're pointing out to him.
no. and I see that how their software can be applied to something that I have skills in, which is the building design industry, not software at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is now, you know, how can you tell us some of your experiences in looking at something like this, where you see an opportunity, and maybe the opportunity is to join the company, maybe the opportunity is to become a customer of the company and make a separate company to pursue this, or to be an investor in the company, or a combination of those.
Well, so what is the exact scenario again? You are interested in a particular talent
Yeah, these guys have augmented reality skills. And
that
I'm
you're
like,
interested in.
yeah, that would be great in this area. I see how it'll solve all sorts of problems that that confront the industry here. None of the other people on the team
And what do they feel about it?
They like the idea, so they want me to join or invest or anyway. So
And what would be the ideal scenario for you?
The ideal scenario for me is for somebody to make this happen, so I can go back to designing buildings instead of selling a product to building owners.
Oh.
I don't want to make my life as a salesman, but I'm the only one who can make this happen, I think, at this time.
Okay.
I want to do it as a part-time thing, maybe, or a short amount of time.
And what's the best outcome for them?
Oh, to have another, spoke in their wheel of applications.
Okay.
Right now, they're not thinking about applications in this area.
Ah, you're kind of a vertical for them or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, percentage of ownership and stuff, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
pre-angel.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any fast and hard rules. In my situation, I kind of kept a pretty cool tap IP for a very long time to make sure that I had I was building value for that company. So every time you have another entity that comes in, I still recommend to have a good agreement in place, because there's opportunity, but there's risk. If something good happens, and they may say, "Hey, this is my stuff," and so that's the main thing, to have discussions with them. I would have in mind kind of what the best outcome is in your case, because if you enter the negotiation not really knowing very much coming, what's going to happen, and they know exactly what they want, it's probably going to have what they want is what's going to happen, which may be okay, but anyways. So I would kind of have a notion of what you want and have a negotiation, and then make sure you have a good way to legalize it and have money to pay for the cheap lawyers around here. It's helpful. By the way, you can find lawyers in the East Coast. I think Steve was on. I use quite a bit of lawyers in the East Coast. They're cheaper there.
Thank you.
Sometimes.
Maybe also the Midwest and the South.
Even better.
Yeah, or even foreign country. So thank you for the presentation, especially the slide with the two
bumps.
The bumps, and explaining that the low number exit. I was in a startup a couple of years ago, and I was a co-founder with two others, and I realized that we were not going to make it, but I saw that we could exit and be cash positive, but they didn't want to do that because they wanted the home run.
Right.
So I had to leave, and now it's and it was nothing. So I appreciate that, and I'm just trying.
You still have the stock certificate, though, right?
Well, let's not get into that. But I'm trying to on your story. Can you put the timeline when you sold to what is it,
Permarex, yeah.
Permarex. Had Waze been acquired by Google at that time, or no?
No.
This was because if you were, pre Google acquisition for Waze, then you would in the situation. Because my startup, there was a product that Google was testing that was similar, but we could have maybe gotten in early enough, and someone would have bought it for some reason if we
right.
it. So I'm just curious what the timeline there is.
Timeline. So I started in December of 2001. I did take essentially like a year off, gotten a job while I had built a website actually, and we kept gathering data. So he kept kind of working on his own. But I took like a leave of absence, essentially, while I applied also for the grant. And when I got it, I went back full speed. It was 2003. So it was either 2001, 2003. And I sold it in August of 2012. So I run it actively either 11 years or 9 years, depending on how you count the thing.
Oh, so by that time, Waze had already been bought.
No,
by
it was a year later. I'm pretty sure it was in 2013.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Later, yeah.
Very good.
Took another year, yeah.
Thank you.
About the SBIR grant.
Yeah.
In my past jobs, I have sponsored quite a couple of SBIR grant for small businesses, and they all successfully got acquired by major big companies.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then for my current organization, when we acquired a small startup, that's Steve Quick's startup, and then we also bought their SBIR together, right? So I was managing that. But then, for myself, what I found the confusion is, I want to get the grant, right? I know what I want to apply for, and I know if I apply for it, I would get a maybe good chance to get approved, granted. But when I apply for the SBRI, it gets granted, then the information becomes public.
The grant application becomes public.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Oh, thank you.
It may be true.
It is.
I think it's just a summary of the grant that's public,
yes,
and the amount. But the actual IP is pretty well protected. It's not coming out.
Yeah, it's only the summary.
The summary, yeah.
Okay. So you're saying
Pretty sure.
No need to worry about that. No need to talk to patent attorney before application.
Well, depending how big your legal budget is, but the way I was doing these things is, and that's something I had learned at IBM, to kind of generally work on a patent application if you've got some really good meat, good stuff. Work on a patent application in parallel, of any type of publication. So the grant applications may be a little different, but if you've gone to the effort to writing this, 15 or 30 pages of detailed description of your invention, you got to determine if it's valuable or not. If you submit for a grant, probably is, and then decide if you're willing to spend the money for patent protection or not. But these things tend to go together, so at least that's the way I try to do it. Or at least do a provisional application. That should still work. That's kind of tricky. I mean, the lawyers do it for free, but then after a year, you're kind of on the hook to pay the big money. These guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Andy?
One more question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to see what is the exact content of an application like this? It sounded like as if it's all about the technology. Wouldn't that require like a detailed business description?
Yeah, you have to recall now, it's been so many years, but I thought it was pretty well done and well thought through. I mean, there's like probably half that's reserved to the technology and about half to the business plan and the story of the business and all of that. And interestingly, even if you're on your own, working out of your garage, assuming it's legal, be careful in Sunnyvale, which is a weird city. You can't have a high-tech business out of your garage. They will... That's a good question. Maybe, I don't know, I think they are aware of people kind of with the big machines doing some, traditional Sunnyvale high-tech, like, woodwork and stuff like that. But, so if you're not too noisy, maybe you can get by. But to close the parenthesis, so it's the story of the business, and even if it's kind of very nascent, as long as you describe it the way it is, that's fine. And then there's another kind of thing around it with a lot of different stuff that you have to present a budget, but it's got to be just so with the government approved line items, This is when I discovered be really careful where you buy your chewing gum from, and the extra eraser will get you.
One last one then.
Yeah.
So would say the publication of such technologies affect the outcome? Does it have to be completely novel, or like something that's already patent granted, or?
So again, it's not a patent. It's an agency. You have to convince them. It's got to be new technology, but it doesn't have to be kind of totally brand new. Even they have this thing they call the STTR. I don't know if it's a good deal, an idea, but you can partner with a university and commercialize their technology. So in that case, they may have kind of done it a couple of years ago or something. I mean, it's not the notion of novelty that's so precise as the patent, but still, I mean, you can't come up with something that was done 10 years ago, and I don't think I can retrieve my applications from 20 years ago and submit today. Although, I should try and see what happens.
Thank you.
Zeki?
So something to add to that topic. If your lawyer goes and challenges one of the applications, he can actually take it out as an evidence. So basically,
If a grant application or
yeah,
a
grant
patent
application. So she was telling me, she was asking if they're protected or not. Okay, so if I basically get my lawyer challenge an application and go request a copy of it as an evidence, that would make it public, and I can access.
Okay,
it.
so wait a minute. So that's true. What you're saying is if somebody wants to challenge your patent, and he say, get me that grant application, June 12, 2001, okay? Let's look at this. And I'm going to say, okay, this was invented before June 12, 2001, right? Because it was written in 2000. So you can't say it was. And so if you have your other patent and you have to look at the priority date you give, they can say, hey, no. But in that sense, I guess that's a document that's discoverable. But that doesn't mean that it's public. And this is why I was going to say also you have to do these things kind of in concert. If in your business you produce this document with valuable IP, you got to have like a little plan around it. Yeah, I'm going to submit there. Do I want it to be a white paper on my website? Why not? I mean, nothing prevents you if you decide. I'm not sure about that, but you've got to.
Yeah, I guess you've got to consult with a lawyer, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, any legal document is non-copyrightable.
That's
so
right.
you can actually copy a patent without copying the claims, and you can actually resubmit with different claims, and that's perfectly valid, right?
And I would add just two things to what you're saying. It's a good point. I mean, doing this kind of technical work to write it down, that's not going to cost you any lawyer money. It's just you and your brain and your hard work and your coffee, okay? Now, getting the opinion of a lawyer for what you should do with that stuff, that should be expensive. I'm thinking, they might even kind of do it as the first half-hour consultation for free, probably. Now, when they go and file a patent, you're going to pay the big bucks. But, and something, I haven't tried it, but when I did this, the patent office wasn't in Silicon Valley. Now, they moved some people there at San Jose. I would go talk to them, actually. Why not? What prevents you to go in? Actually, when I started my business, there were quite a few good resources in San Jose for entrepreneurship and stuff. And, it's a time where you have more time than money. Then go talk to these guys and wait until for the big lawyers.
So just send you a invitation when you ask for those invitations.
Oh, okay, I see. I'll make sure to accept your invitation first. That's sounds good. Yeah.
So the other comment that I had was regarding the other subject. So government agencies, they're trying to license IP out. So if you basically go apply for productizing one of those licensable IPs, I think your chances might get better. What would you comment about that? Like, for example, if I went to NASA is trying to license out, dozens and dozens of technologies so that they can be productized or commercialized.
Well, the first question is why hasn't anybody picked it up yet from the NASA people? I mean, if it's so good, why don't these guys go and do a startup? But if it's really good and if it's something that you think is your cup of tea, why not? I mean, you're going to get the exclusive license, hopefully. And if the price is right and the conditions are right, I think it's an option.
But do you have any experience in that domain of licensing IP from a government organization and getting money?
I don't
to
have personal experience because
commercialize
I've only kind of worked with my own ideas so far. But I've been kind of running out now for several years. So maybe.
And that too, correct. But universities are not government organizations. The peculiarity of the setting that I'm presenting is basically taking money from the government to license IP from another organization that belongs to the
So how would you take money from the government in that case, though? Because you're asking them for IP, so they're going to want you to pay something or give some.
That's NASA. NASA, yeah, I'm going to pay to NASA,
Yeah.
but I'm going to get that money from the SBIR, right?
Oh, I see. That I don't know. You have to check. It may work.
I mean, so does that bring an advantage? I mean, I've never looked into it, but I'm just brainstorming with you. I mean, because you're presenting certain things, ideas, and that's fueling other ideas. So it's just an open forum.
Yeah.
Like
No, I
Rob
appreciate
said, it's
that.
casual conversation. So
Appreciate
but
that.
do you have
Yeah.
any experience in that domain?
I don't know.
All right.
But it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Again, anything that can give you special IP. What I'll say though is what I've seen several companies that started by university IP, and invariably the big IP they had later on was their own. They got something, but that wasn't kind of really what their stuff has been. And that's part from kind of developing the product and realizing what are the inventions that are kind of practically needed, and or whatever, or it's kind of whole thing about by doing. This is how things happen.
So let me get the last one again. Let's switch gears from IP to scaling or hyperscaling and customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
In his book, in the Blitzscaling book, Mr. Hoffman says that let some fires burn. Hoffman.
Reid Hoffman?
Yeah.
The LinkedIn guy.
Yeah, let some fires burn. You don't need to attend to every fire. There will be, you always will have some complaining customers. Attend to ones who matter.
Yeah.
Big numbers. Oh, give them this feature because there are many consumers who want this feature. Leave it on the other two, right? So what are your thoughts in early days as how to create the wisdom or create the culture to help you understand what fires to attend to?
The first thing is, I say, Reid Hoffman is kind of a weird guy. I haven't kind of totally kept that. Maybe I have, but early on when I was trying to raise money, I gave my attempt to raise some venture money, and I was one of the early LinkedIn users. I think it's partly why I have like 3,000 people on LinkedIn, just because I've been there so early. Everybody wants to kind of find me there. But early on, I noted this VC. I thought, what was his name? I forget, but in like one of the big firms, and my connection to him was Reid Hoffman. So I was sending this request for connection. Why don't you connect me? I have a great idea and stuff. And he went. I hope I kept this because now you remind me I have to publish it someplace. He sent me this long-winded reply. Why? It wasn't a good idea because I basically was a shredded, nobody, useless guy. There was absolutely no point for connecting me to that great guy. So that's Reid Hoffman. But actually, he's a great guy and he's on the radio now, I think, today. I don't know. I think it goes, I had a bit of that situation when we got a bit of success on the mobile, and at some point we had 300,000 people on the mailing list. We had that situation. So, and since certainly from my point of view, I loved this attention and stuff, but I was seeing the money coming from our paying customers, and at that time we were totally, besides the money I had from the government, which wasn't that much, but it was good. But it will be used up. We were totally surviving and thriving from the money from the ABC, NBC, Disney, all these guys. All my eyes were on these guys, making sure they were happy. So yeah, every time we sent an email to 300,000 people, there were always some people yelling and be upset about something. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's good. I wish I had like a mailing list that big these days. I've got to start it from scratch now. Yeah. That's a good comment, Ali.
All right, let's give it up for Andre. So, if you'd like a copy of the slides, email Andre directly. The video will be available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/idea-IPO within 48 hours. And right now, we're going to escort Andre out to the front desk. We'll answer questions, and he's got some books.
He's got
If
my
you guys
books.
would like to purchase them and have them signed. So thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.